We believe that the best outcome for the UK would be remaining in a reformed Europe. And what do we mean by that? We mean a Europe that integrates more, but also allow more flexibility in the way it works in its own internal organization. But what's the chance of that happening? Pretty low, especially if you see how Europe is operating at the moment and is likely to operate in the near future. So the second best, maybe it's not the optimal, but the second best is leaving a sinking ship. If Europe is destined to collapse, you want to exploit the sort of first mover advantage and therefore leaving the EU while it's still alive, and you can still take some of the advantages of that.
And what about the third and fourth case scenarios?
If you wish, the third is where you have the current situation, the UK remaining in Europe as it is now, messy, if you wish, with a very cumbersome political decision-making process where it's difficult to get things done and agreed on in an easy way. The worst outcome is, of course, what you can call fog in the channel, continent cut off, meaning the UK leaves a EU that instead prosper and works well as a common project going forward.
Brunello, it's not just where the Brits fall in the vote, but also how wide of a margin it is as well, right?
You're exactly right, Betty, because only a very strong success, one way or the other, for the Remain or the Leave campaign would eventually lead to a clear outcome where the government is mandated to implement the results of the referendum. But what's the chance of that happening? We believe pretty limited. It's more likely than not that you will have a quite tight race with a very narrow victory from one of the two camps, and that would create uncertainty because, in fact, any outcome is open if the victory is very tight. It doesn't mean necessarily that if the Remain camp wins that you do have Remain forever. In fact, Brexit can still occur. Vice versa, if the Leave camp wins by a narrow majority, that doesn't necessarily mean Brexit. You might still have the UK remaining in the EU after having negotiating a new deal, perhaps forward to another referendum in a couple of years.
Well, and I know, Brunello, that lots of folks also look to what happened a couple of years ago with the vote on Scottish independence, and they look at that as a possible trajectory for Britain. And Clive Crook, our Bloomberg View columnist, pointed to that in a piece a few weeks ago where he said, quote, "Doing the prudent thing, which is staying in the EU, will only make Britain more resentful. The UK will be more Eurosceptic, and the careers of anti-EU politicians such as Boris Johnson will be far from over." So even if the Brits vote with their heads, their hearts still might say a different thing later.
Yes, you're probably right. And to some extent, I would say there's a bit of an asymmetry in this campaign. The campaign of the Remain is all based on what is convenient for the UK, what is the right thing. It's a story about numbers and growth outlook, inflation outlook, the pound and so on. It speaks to the head of people. The campaign about living is more about speaking to the heart and to some extent to the guts of people. So we are fed up with this story. We don't want to belong to this messy organization anymore that leads us nowhere. And this is why it's so difficult to have such a clear campaign, because these are arguments on very different levels.